Good afternoon and welcome to out-of-town guests and visitors and friends and family of Wes Wilson who've come here for the memorial service today. Thank you for your patience, as obviously you can see that Wes had many, many friends, and the place is overflowing. In fact, a special thank you and a welcome to those of you who are looking on in the overflow rooms right now. Thank you for your humility and kindness in taking the back seat today. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to open us with a word of prayer, and then we're going to proceed with our service today. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, I give you thanks, O God, for you are the maker of heaven and earth. You are also the author of life. You're the author and finisher of our faith. God, you have the first say and you have the last say. You're the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Thank you for kindly providing, O God, life and breath to Wes Wilson. Lord, thank you for the time that he spent here, the impact that he had on so many, many people. And Father, please bless and comfort all those who are present today. And let this service, Lord, be guided by your Holy Spirit, and that there would be catharsis and opportunity to weep and to rejoice and to laugh probably too, in remembering a very full life. God, bless the hearts and give peace and joy to each one who's present, Lord, that they would be comforted even as they grieve. Lord, thank you. So I pray that you would be honored now today among us, and I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Wesley Warren Wilson, age 45, died this week at home. His death was tragic and utterly unexpected by those who knew him. Wes was sharp and successful and full of life. He was born here in Atlanta to Bill and Jan Wilson and graduated from Etowah High School. He then graduated from Georgia Tech, where he was president of his fraternity. He was an industrial engineer, a musician, a baseball lover, and those are just the basic facts. Wes was my brother-in-law, married to my sister Kim. But for most of their marriage, I was in Bangkok, Thailand, serving as a missionary. And so I never knew Wes well. My encounters with Wes were few, but whenever we were together with family and friends in a gathering, he struck me as unfailingly kind and gracious. His hand absolutely swallowed mine up. Well, for the fuller picture of Wes, I'm going to have to defer to a number of testimonials that you'll be hearing over the next minutes from those in the program. And we're also going to be opening a time where others can share some of your own stories and impressions of Wes's life. But for now, I'm tasked with taking a few minutes to share some thoughts and perspective from God's Word. The phrase that came into my head several times this week, and it's been a hard week, but since hearing of Wes's death, the phrase, "How then shall we live?" for some reason has come to mind a number of times. It's an odd question to come to mind. How then shall we live? Because this week hasn't been about living, but about dying. However, those who are here now are, after all, the survivors. In fact, the obituary usually says Wes or someone, whoever it is survived by their family, a wife, children, etc. Survive means survive, to live beyond, to live on. And this memorial service is really for the survivors, for those who will live on. And so then there's the question I'll put to us today. Then how then shall we live? The question actually comes from a passage in the Bible. It's in 2 Peter. And the full passage in context is not about dying. It's actually about the end of the world. I mean, it goes like this. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, in which the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the elements will be destroyed with intense heat, and the earth and its works will be burned up. And since all these things are to be destroyed in this way, what sort of people ought you to be? Or how then should you live? In holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be destroyed by burning, and the elements will melt with intense heat. But according to his promise, we are looking for new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. Therefore, beloved, since you look for these things, be diligent to be found by him in peace, spotless and blameless, and regard the patience of our Lord as salvation. How then shall we live? In other words, in light of death, how then should we live? And I have about 3 things that I would suggest that I can learn, that we can learn from this death, that we can bring into our living. And first is that we should live in reverent fear. And verse 10 says, the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. The day of our death, too, probably, when we didn't expect it. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, and fearful and wonderful are the days we are given by God. God is not far from any of us, nor is eternity. In him we live and move and have our being. He gives to all people life and breath and every good thing. But it's appointed for man to die once, and after this the judgment. It's good and right to live in this kind of reverent fear. The Bible says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. If we don't or have never feared God, then we haven't even started to be wise, according to that verse. This death this week of a big, strapping man full of life is a testimony, too, to the fragility of life and the fragility of the human condition. So we should live in the reverent fear of God. Second, how should we live? We should live in deep gratitude for what we have now. Hurry up and give thanks for what you have before it's taken from you, before it wears out, grows up, moves away, or dies. Most people seem to be able to waste most of their lives wishing they were somewhere else, doing something else with someone else. When we were young, we couldn't wait to grow up. And when we grow up, we want to be young again. People rejoice when they finally get that good job, and then they sit at work wishing it was the weekend already. Singles want to get married, and married people sometimes long for the freedom of singleness. Married couples who can't have children are focused on wanting a child. And couples who have children are thinking, why do we have to have all these kids? There's an Irish missionary that I worked with in Thailand, in Bangkok, a sweet lady and her husband, and they have 3 boys. And I remember when my 2 were really young, and my 2 are here today. They were very young. One was a baby and the other was a toddler, and all the headaches of the diapers and their constant needs and their constant attention that they needed. And Lorna McGowan's boys were older than our kids, and they were in their room doing homework or clothing themselves without having to be clothed by their parents, just different things they could do. And I remember saying to Lorna, it must be wonderful when your kids are at that stage where they can finally take care of themselves. And without missing a beat, this godly, sweet woman, she smiled and said, it's wonderful at every stage. And that served as such a rebuke to me. I'm so glad I heard it when my children were very, very small, because I never forgot it. She had learned the secret of contentment and gratitude for what she had right then and there, not for some alternate reality. So give a big hug to those that you love and thank God for them while you still have them. I never forgot Lorna's words. I'm so grateful that she said that to me and that God gave me the opportunity to hear that. And I'd say I think I probably spent a whole lot of time with my kids as they grew up. From that day on, I stopped wishing accelerated growth on my children. Give thanks to God for what you have right now. And finally, how then should we live? The answer is we should live with an upward gaze. 3 times in this passage that I just read in 2 Peter, it says looking for, looking for. looking for, like looking ahead, looking up, looking for and hastening the coming, looking for new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. In view of the fact that my life will end, that indeed the whole world, according to the Bible, will eventually end, and God will create new heavens and a new earth, I should look up and look forward. There's a better world to come. And now I hope it doesn't sound like I'm contradicting what I said a moment ago. You do live in the now with what he's given you, but you're also at the same time looking ahead and forward to what God has in store. God has a plan for our lives, and it's not just a plan for this life of 45 years or 60 years or 80 years. It's for eternity. But we spend most of our energies focused on this short lifespan, entirely unprepared for eternity. It's going to sneak up on all of us probably. And I think the first time I thought about eternity or dying and facing God was as a teenager, but I remember it was yesterday. Do you all remember Park Air Mall? Okay. Well, when I was a kid, you ride your bike out of Indian Hills and go on down to the McDonald's. That was the only restaurant around anywhere. And eventually that empty field, or was it a landing strip? They built a little shopping mall there and put an ice rink in there. And that was the coolest thing around. I don't even think it exists anymore. But in those days, we'd go and walk around in the mall, and I remember walking around one afternoon around the ice rink and looking at the shops and stuff, and these couple of boys stopped me. I was probably 15 years old, and they were about 9 and 13. They were two brothers. And I don't remember anything else about our conversation, but these two questions that they asked me, really cheeky questions. And can anybody guess what those questions probably were? If you're a Christian, you probably have an idea. If you died tonight, do you know for sure you would go to heaven? You probably have heard that question before. If you died tonight, do you know for sure you would go to heaven? Yep. I said, yeah, sure. And then came the second question. You all know that other question? Come on, y'all are in the Bible Belt. Even some of you flew in from California. You used to be in the Bible Belt. If you stood at the gates of heaven and God asked you, why should I let you into heaven? How would you respond? And I didn't have a good response for that except to say, I'm a pretty good person. You ought to let me in. Really? Never sinned? Never lied? Never cheated? Never stole? Never sinned sexually? Never hated anyone's guts? Never taken God's name in vain? By the end of that short conversation, I knew that I did not have the right answer to that question. I was only 15, but these brave, young, faithful little boys, Christians, were trying to get me to look up, to look beyond. I could have been offended, but they're just trying to say, have you thought about after you die at all? Eternity might begin at any moment. Life is fragile. Life is short. It might be that day when I first heard that famous verse, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that anyone who believes in him might not perish, but have everlasting life. And within 2 years of that encounter, I received the grace and the forgiveness of Jesus Christ, along with the peace and joy and love given by his Holy Spirit. And I'm sorry, that was kind of a long story, but do you see my point? It was in confronting death, as we are today, that these boys changed my life. And I believe that they helped change my eternity. It's probably good that we have memorial services and funerals. The person who's died doesn't need it, but I think we do. And says, today, in light of this death, that's what I would ask you, is just how then shall we live? We who remain, the survivors. We don't have to walk away unchanged from today's service. May the Lord bless you. Okay.
In this reading, Mirabai Starr, professor of philosophy and world religion at the University of New Mexico, writes of her longing for connection to the ultimate. At times she felt connected, yet it was always a fleeting connection which could not be sustained. Then, her 14-year-old daughter was killed in a car accident, and everything changed. She writes,
"Death has been my own gateway to the numinous. I did not pick this path. With my daughter's death, suddenly the sacred fire I had been chasing all my life engulfed me. I was plunged into the abyss, instantaneously dropped into the vast stillness and pulsing silence at which all my favorite mystics hint. So shattered I could not see my own hand in front of my face. I was suspended in the invisible arms of a love I had only dreamed of. Immolated, I found myself resting in fire. Drowning, I surrendered and discovered I could breathe underwater."
I discovered that there was nowhere to hide when radical sorrow unraveled the fabric of my life. I could rage against the terrible unknown, and I did, for I am human, and I have this vulnerable body, passionate heart, and complicated mind. Or I could turn towards the cup, bow to the cupbearer, and say yes.
Even as we cry out in anguish of loss, the boundless love of the Holy One comes pouring into the shattered container of our hearts. This replenishing of our emptiness is a mystery. It is grace, and it is built into the human condition.
Few of us would ever opt for the narrow gate of grief, even if it were guaranteed to lead us to God. But if our most profound losses, the death of a loved one, the ending of a marriage, a career, catastrophic disease, or alienation from our community, if these things bring us to our knees before that threshold, we might as well enter. The beloved might be waiting in the next room.
Thank you. And at this time, we're going to welcome testimonials from family and friends. You guys come on up here, wherever you are.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I don't know how to do this, but I'm just grateful. I guess I'm just grateful. He's just the most incredible person, and loved my mom to death, and loved me, and loved Austin, and just was a friend to everyone, and loved everything about this world, and found that formula. He had the formula, and it's like so many people, I think we're obviously looking for that. It's like, how did Wes find the way to wring out every last drop of joy, of friendship? He was so inclusive in what he did. He wanted everyone. Not in a self-serving way. He wanted everyone, Darren, all you guys, to be, part of his thing, and just the joy that was Wes Wilson. And it's just, there's no way to put into words the person he was, and his massive hug that made you feel like an ant in this planet. And just incredible guy. Loved baseball, loved the Braves, huge Braves fan. Loved his guitar, playing with my brother, just incredible. I'm glad you guys got to do that together. Loved vegetables. Loved his microwave, was very proficient with his microwave. There's no set of words that I can say. I just love him so much, and I love who he was. And Jan, just a testimony for you. You're just the most incredible mom, and you're just the most incredible person. And it's just left an indelible impact on me and everyone that he's been around. Everybody's got a different set of experiences, obviously, whether it's high school or beta or Braves fantasy camp, whatever it was, but I think there was some consistency to all of those experiences, and that Wes was just kind, and he wanted everyone to be around, and just wanted to be friends and have a good time, and it was always good-natured, and I mean, it was just like everywhere we went, we brought home a gaggle of new friends, literally. We go to Mexico, and we'd have like 87 new Facebook friends, only Wes Wilson. So I didn't write anything because I couldn't bring myself to do it, but just know that he loves all of you, and he loved my mom to death, and you can't put a price on that. That's the most incredible thing is you guys' relationship, and I'm just so glad that I got to be there to experience it, and I love you guys. I love everyone. Thank you for coming.
Wesley Warren Wilson, born on October 10th, 1973. And I can only imagine that it must have been a really joyous occasion that was worth celebrating, especially to my parents, because I was born almost exactly 9 months later. So I can honestly say that I've known this man my entire life. Growing up next to him, countless stories that I want to share that I know I don't have time for. I've tried to pare it down as best I can. Y'all are going to have to bear with me. From jumping bikes in the neighborhood, to playing Dukes of Hazzard, to dressing up like Batman and Robin, if anybody's wondering through the pictures. Yeah, I was the boy wonder. Endless number of pickup games and games we invented, playing in the sandbox, anything you could imagine. We were two peas in a pod for a long time. And we got to playing, got a little bit older and started playing ball. And had one of the greatest rivalries in the history of Woodstock between the SCRA Dodgers and the SCRA Astros. Astros and Dodgers here. The Astros are outnumbering us, Jason. That's probably no wonder he struck us out a lot. And for those of y'all that knew Wes, knew him as being a big guy, and he loved baseball, he loved playing it. For all my old man baseball brethren out there that didn't get to know Wes when he was younger, he was a dominant pitcher, and had that reputation all throughout Little League Baseball. And it wasn't just because he was big or he was tall and he had a strong arm. I remember as he and his dad in the backyard, the summers of 10,000 pitches. Hearing that glove pop over and over and over again in the backyard. He learned at a young age to work his tail off to maximize his talent. And he carried that through in a lot of aspects of his life. We got to middle school and high school, had a lot of memories of playing ball with him there, both baseball and basketball. I saw a lot of posts this week that been a lot of fun, but a lot of people calling Wes a gentle giant. And I would beg to differ if anybody ever tried to challenge him in the lane. He would get so pissed off at me when being a guard and being slow, I would get beat off the dribble all the time. And he'd have to clobber whoever it was that was coming in the lane to make sure they didn't get a clean look. Be yelling at me as he's having to leave the court in foul trouble. I got to stay in the game. We went to our first concert together in high school. We were freshmen, and it was in the fall. Def Leppard was in town at the old Omni. We had nosebleed seats. We thought we were big shots. The show started. Don't remember much of the rest of the show because these guys in front of us were smoking these really funny smelling cigarettes. We had no clue. But boy, we were hungry when the show was over. Begging Wes's dad, Bill, to please, Waffle House, Taco Bell, anything. You got to get us something. In high school, you could start to see where Wes got developed some of his giving spirit. When my sister was a senior and her prom date backed out literally hours before prom, Wes immediately stepped up. And within hours, he had a tux, he had a corsage, he had the car cleaned and gassed and was ready to go, because he couldn't bear the thought of my sister going without a date. That was the kind of giver that he was. We grew up a little bit older in high school, and I got a girlfriend, and Wes decided that I needed a theme song. Unfortunately, that theme song was Never Gonna Get It. Pass him in the hall, never gonna get it, never gonna get it. What a friend. We graduated high school and went to college, and we were roommates together for the first couple of years. And one of the freshman or sophomore year, we were going to visit my sister in New Orleans, party a little in Bourbon Street, and go play some golf, hang out, do whatever. We spent that first night on the trip. We stopped at the family farm in Alabama. We had countless memories on that farm growing up. And we stayed out in some tents by the pond, did some night fishing. Turns out I was allergic to fire ants. Not deathly allergic, but I woke up in the morning and I had a cauliflower ear. I had a golf ball in my forehead, and I couldn't see below my lower lip. And I looked up at Wes and I'm like, man, something don't feel right. What's going on? And he looks at me just deadpan as ever and said, dude, you look like Reginald Denny. If you don't know who Reginald Denny is, you'll have to Google that. It was after the Rodney King riots, and anyway, the guy's got his face smashed in with a brick, and that's what I looked like. Our lives kind of diverged for a while in young adulthood, and they came back together several years ago, and I got to see Wes with the loving and opening that he opened his house and his heart to everyone. And there's no wonder why there are so many people here wanting to celebrate his life. He was so full of support and full of love, helped me through some dark times, and always made everyone feel so welcome. Got me back into playing baseball. Shout out to all the old men playing old man baseball here, if you're here. Probably several in the other rooms. We've had a blast doing it, and I can't thank Wes enough for getting me back involved in it. Spent a lot of time at football games with Wes. He and I shared season tickets to the Georgia Tech football games. He was famous for sneaking in whiskey in his sunscreen bottles. And, you know, a perfect disguise, right, for that guy. I mean, like the whitest of white guys that nobody would question. This guy needs sunscreen for a night game. Yeah, sure. Come on in, buddy. Yeah, you're good to go. If our football team was any better, he would have run out of whiskey, but usually that wasn't the case. There's going to be a lot of times, you know, people tell me that a lot of things, you know, time's going to heal all wounds, and this is one that I honestly just can't see it. Because there won't be any time that I will ever light a cigar, go to a Tech game, go to a Braves game, or see a bottle of honey whiskey and not think of Wes. That's never going to stop. But he did love everyone with open arms, certainly no more than the mother who gave him everything, than the wife that he truly adored. Emotionally, like a lot of people here, I'm hurt. This is tough. I'm not going to know if or when this is ever going to stop. I don't think parts of it ever will. And if I'm honest, I'm angry. And I'm not angry about why or how. That has nothing to do with it. It could have been a car accident or a heart attack or whatever. This was my brother that I grew up with. And I truly loved him. And I will never stop missing him.
Hey everyone, I'm Joey Spain. If I'd gone to a conventional college, our paths probably never would have met. But fortunately, I went to Georgia Tech, and I met Wes when he was a sixth year, and I was a freshman. Now I met him during rush, and you have to keep in mind I was a 5'4", 120-pound freshman with braces. I could barely pass for 16. Cops would pull me over and check my ID, make sure I could legally drive. So there I am at rush, and as we all know, when Wes walks in a room, or if he's in a room, he commands the room. Everyone just gravitates towards Wes. So when I walked into beta, I see Wes, and I immediately know I needed to go talk to this guy. He's important. So I make my way over there, and I'd been to a couple other houses, and remember how I used to look. People would sometimes just overlook me, pass me off to other people, maybe not even talk to me. But that's not Wes. Wes, he looks past anything that other people might consider superficial. So it would have been easy for him to just give me some lip service about rush, pass me off to someone else, and move on to another rushie he finds more interesting. But he didn't. He took the time to get to know me and talk to me. And I spent a lot of that first night talking to Wes. And I'm 100% convinced, because I probably didn't talk to many other people, that when my name came up at the meeting that night, he told everyone else, Joey's okay. And I don't think anyone was going to argue with Wes, even if they didn't meet me. They're just like, all right, he's good. So again, Wes was a sixth year, I was a freshman. We had a big age gap, and typically someone who's in college for 6 years, they're kind of ready to move on, got that first job lined up, kind of have one foot out the door. But not Wes. He chose to be our pledge trainer, and he wanted to impart his wisdom on us, and he had a lot of wisdom. Truth be told, Wes was a role model for every younger beta that ever met him. I realize now, looking back, how much of an impact he had on me that first year. The biggest thing that he tried to instill upon us as pledges and as betas was to be a leader, the importance of leadership. And you spend any time with Wes, he's the leader. He's the alpha. He says something, everyone does it. He wants to organize a get-together. It's on. He knows how to lead. He knows how to lead everybody. In fact, our chapter's motto was learn to lead, and he was the perfect embodiment of that motto. And I really took it to heart. Whenever I was in a leadership position after that, I always tried to make decisions as if I were Wes. And unfortunately, I didn't have the foresight to make a bracelet that said WWWWWD. So by the end of that first year, Wes had invited me to go to trivia night on a Wednesday night. This became almost a weekly tradition for probably the next 7 to 8 years. These trivia nights segued into weekend get-togethers, jam sessions, steeplechase outings, and almost always patty melts at Waffle House the mornings after. In fact, for years after I graduated, I kept a packed bag in my car just in case Wes and Kim invited me to go up to the house for the weekend. I didn't want to waste time going back to my house to pack. I wanted to be ready to go. Wes he's too big of a personality for me to define in a seminal story or an anecdote. And honestly, there are too many experiences and fond memories. Ski trips, conventions, tailgates. It's just too hard to single one out that was better than the others. But when I look back over all of these experiences I've had with Wes and look at them in aggregate, they paint a picture of a friend who everyone wanted to be around, who always treated you as an equal, even though it's pretty obvious that he was pretty great and way better than me. Who always saw the best in everyone. And most importantly, someone who loved life to the fullest, but also made sure that the friends around him did as well. And we definitely did. You never realize how much someone meant to you until you can't reach out to them anymore. This week, I realized how much Wes meant to me and how much he has meant to so many others, as is evidenced by how many people are here today. I'm humbled and honored to be in his circle of friends, and I know I'm a much better person for having known and experienced him. To Brother Wilson.
I am not as eloquent a speaker as all of these guys, so I'm going to stick to the script here. And the first draft was about 14 and a half minutes long, so I had to cut it back quite a bit. I met Wes in June of 2008, and we bonded over our love of baseball and music. Wes knew what he liked: baseball, music, travel, math, and friends and family. I couldn't ever keep up with him in the math department, but he'd weave some algebraic equation into our DraftKings color-coded Excel spreadsheet to help us pick lineups. He'd assure me that math always wins. When Wes embraced something, he'd experience it at the highest possible level. Baseball 6 times a year turned into season tickets, Braves fantasy camp, a trip to the Hall of Fame to see Maddox, Glavine, and Bobby Cox inducted, connecting with former Braves players, alumni get-togethers, joining a baseball team, managing the team, and on and on. Music was 1,200 songs in his playlist: playing music, starting a band, playing guitar, harmonica, piano, which was his true love, and going to every concert imaginable. He left no stone unturned. Even food was tightly managed. I can name 10 items, and he probably had them in his diet every day: Powerade, turkey hot dogs, low-carb wraps, a tall Miller Lite, chicken, cheese, and Cholula at El Ran, whiskey, and Diet Mountain Dew. And every once in a while, a good burger with no garden. He also embraced his family and friends. We talked on numerous occasions. With him telling me about his amazing childhood. Great parents that gave him every opportunity to succeed. He told me on a couple of occasions that while he was in college at Georgia Tech as the president of his fraternity, the other fraternity brothers would be going out on a Friday or Saturday to Buckhead, and Jan would come down and pick him up, and they would go to Braves baseball games. He cherished those moments. And Kim, he knew he had a life partner that allowed him to do the things that he loved, but would also experience the music, travel, and adventure together. He loved you without boundaries. He was extremely proud of Austin and Brook and the fine young men that they had become. As for friends, just look around you today. The other night, Steve said to me, "I thought I was his best friend." I said, "That's the beauty of Wes. He makes everyone feel like they're his best friend." He was always present, always willing to listen, prepared to give advice if asked. That's the Wes Wilson I know and love. Wes, I pray for your eternal peace. I pray that your version of heaven is filled with doubleheaders in the daytime and great concerts at night, but most importantly, no green food. I love you, brother. Rest in peace.
Hi, my name is Darren Stock. I've been one of Wes's best friends for over 20 years. We first met in 1999. We both just started working at Cintas in Kennesaw, Georgia. My very first encounter with Wes was while playing on our men's softball league. He, of course, was the first baseman. I was playing center field. There's a runner on second. Line shot up the middle. I come up, want to show off my great arm, try to throw the guy out at home, overthrow the catcher, run scores, guy gets all the way to third base. Inning ends, he greets me in the dugout. "Hit the damn cutoff man, bro." Of course he was right. We became best of friends immediately. We both love sports. We've gone to countless concerts and ball games over the years. We shared a love for the Dallas Cowboys and the Atlanta Braves. We even had the same favorite baseball player of all time, Nolan Ryan. I can promise you there wasn't a bigger Braves fan on the planet than Wes. He was just a natural-born leader. It didn't matter what you were doing. If Wes was involved, you knew it was going to be run like a tight ship. He would just tell me where to be and when to be, and you knew it was taken care of. He truly lived life to the fullest and was the most giving, caring, loving, compassionate, and genuine friend you could ever ask for. I will cherish all our great times. I don't know what I'm going to do without you there, big guy. Kim, Austin, Brook, and Jan, he loves you guys so much. I pray that you can find comfort and peace in this difficult time. Know that Lisa and I are always going to be here for you. We love you guys. Wes, I'm going to miss our jam sessions and late night conversations and debates in the Blue Pig. Those were so much fun. Wes and I had this never-ending debate over who was the best lead singer of Van Halen. He just loved him some David Lee Roth. I preferred Sammy Hagar. Sorry, big guy, Sammy is better. You truly were a great friend, and this journey will not be the same without you. I know you're up there in heaven having a catch with your dad. Bill, you better not miss the cutoff, man.
Well, I'm the overly emotional one of the group. I'm James Torres. Everybody calls me JT. I didn't like taking pictures with Wes. I feel your pain, Joey. To get us both, you had to stand way, way back. If you wanted my face in the picture, you'd only get him up to here. And if you wanted him in the picture, you got the top of my head. And I also didn't like him reminding me how bald I was getting when I wasn't wearing my Cubs cap. He'd look down. You're getting close to me, JT. We've been telling stories all week, which has been sad and funny and just all over the place. So today I'm just going to sum up a few of my thoughts, and there's a common thread you can see. What I did like. I guess I lost. I like being his friend. I like being the house bartender at the Blue Pig. Every time Wes and Kim had a party, he'd say, make sure everybody had a good time, make sure their drinks were full, and if anything got crazy or out of control, to handle it. Then he'd chuckle and say, or let me know, and bow up. A giant guy in stature with a larger-than-life personality to match. He always wanted to make sure everybody was comfortable and having a good time. He was happy giving advice or being a mentor to anyone he could lend his wisdom to. He was definitely wise beyond his years. I say a mental MacGyver or a jack of all trades, master of most. He enjoyed sitting around with us guys, just chit-chatting about sports, music, and definitely the Braves. He was always willing to help anyone. And any planning to do anything, he'd make a flow chart, how things should go, planning events down to a T, just to make sure everything went smooth for everyone around him. I picture him now trying to put together the band. John Putnam, his dad, and probably John Bonham on drums. Maybe a better name, though. The other white meat. Sandy Watkins asked me how I would describe Wes in 2 words. My response was quick. Honest leader. You never doubted Wes. Anything he said, you knew it was the truth. Never any exaggeration. He enjoyed and had passion on almost everything he did. He was straight up a man's man, a leader. A leader doesn't put people down, but lifts them up to be better. Never pretentious or dismissive. People ask me if I was one of his best friends, and I quickly replied, yes. But then I'd think, he just made everybody feel like he was their best friend. And that's a unique and sometimes lost quality. He was never, ever afraid to say, I love you. Almost every time, without fail. If you were leaving his house, you'd get a big giant hug, and I love you, bro. Thanks for coming. And for me, sometimes a rub on the head, little buddy. But I know what he loved the most. His love and passion was Kim. His mom and dad, who he missed every day. Austin and Brook, his family and friends. Well, today, we lift you up, my friend. We lift you up with all of our stories and thoughts and love, and we lift you up, Kim and Jan. Family, we love you and we're here for you.
You can leave. Okay, so I was coming back from Nashville yesterday, and right past Chattanooga, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to say and going through these memories. And I decided to have a conversation with Wes, and I started talking to him. And I was following this truck, this big Dodge Ram, this jacked up car. We're going 75, both sides of the highway were packed, and he wouldn't let me pass. And this guy had a hat on, this cowboy hat. But I paused and I said, just take your time, continue talking to Wes. And then all of a sudden, about 200 yards in front of us, I see this dog dart across the other side of the highway. It wasn't going to make it, but it got to the median, and then it jumped in front of me in this truck. And I was getting prepared for this sadness because it wasn't going to make it. But then it was like that Frogger game. And it made it, and it got to the end of the woods. And I got out of the passenger seat, and I just started throwing my arms in like this victory celebration. And then I looked at that guy with the cowboy hat in front of me, and he was just doing the same thing. And his hand started going out the window, and he was looking back at me, and he was like, yeah, we got to, for 2 miles we did this. And I thought, oh my God, I just connected with this Tunnel Hill Dalton cowboy. And then I realized I was talking to Wes, and that's what Wes did. He connected with every single person. Maybe he was in that car. I don't know. But Wes was our modern-day Renaissance man. He was a jack of all trades. He was the first with a joke or light up your smoke. he did everything well. He could architect or blueprint or build out his basement. He could wire anything. He could build a bar with his own hands. He was good at so many things. He played baseball. We know his baseball. He played tennis, played basketball. He was good at so many things. He played guitar. He taught himself piano, harmonica, and drums. He was good at so many things except singing. Now, whenever we go out to a bar or at a party or function, he'd always introduce me as, he would say, yeah, this is, Matt not remember who the guy's name or the girl's name was. He'd say, this is Ryan Blake. He's our drummer of our band, and just to let you know, we are accepting money and donations. We're trying to get an automated electronic drum machine. Or it might be this Ryan Blake, our drummer of our band. Be patient. He's just learning to count to 4. But he did so with that smirk, that Cheshire grin. And I never once told him he couldn't sing in front of his face. Because there was no one better. There was no one more than I wanted to see behind that mic than him. To see someone having so much fun that could ignite and spark a crowd of friends and just make things happen. To see how much fun he had, how passion he had doing all that. I started thinking about all the stories, the memories that we had. And there's one that just kept coming back to me that I think really epitomizes who Wes was. One night, Wes called me up and he said, hey, Ryan, listen, I'm going to come pick you up. We're going to go to open mic night, the musicians karaoke. And I was like, oh, great. This sounds awesome. I'm interested. I'm in. So he comes pick me up, and we go to this bar. And we go into the bar, and we're a little nervous. We're a little, gingerly walking in because, we're looking at a lot of talented musicians. Now, again, I don't know why we're nervous because we are amazing musicians. But we walked in, and we're listening to all these great musicians and everything that's going around, but everything was dead. It was like zombie land. There was like 50, 60 people in there, but it was just dead. So we walk up to the bar, we order our drinks, we sit down, we connect. He then signs us up, signs up the 3 songs that he wanted to sing or play. And then we waited, and we waited a long time, still dead most of the night. And then our names were called. And as soon as our names were called, we marched up to that stage. We walked up. I got behind the drum kit. Of course, Wes goes up confidently, grabs the mic, ignores the guitarists, comes back to me, looks at me, and he goes, let's get it on. And I said, and he walked back in front of the stage of strangers, grabbed the mic with 2 hands, and he said, wake up, people, it's time to rock. By the middle of that first song, people started migrating towards that stage. By the 3rd song, there wasn't a person in there that was not at the stage dancing, clapping, having fun. Strangers. By the end of that song, he got a standing ovation. We immediately got off the stage. He got in front of me, walked down this stage. I was behind him. As he was high-fiving, which was really down here, everybody was just hitting him. I followed him out there. We ignored the guitarist, walked out of the exit of the bar, pushed open the double-sided doors as if it was an old country western saloon. And when we got out there, we just started laughing. Now, he got to his car, got inside, but I waited outside on the passenger side and started looking around the parking lot. And he rolled down the window and he said, Ryan, what are you looking for? And I said, I'm looking for that deaf and blind school bus because I think they're all in there. So we laughed, we drove home, he drove home, avoiding the main roads and hitting the back roads, and he took me home, and as we got home, as we always did, and everybody here, before I got out of the door, we just kind of looked at each other, as we always did, and in sync, hugged, and at the same time said, I love you, bro. You heard it. Now, Wes touched a lot of people. He loved a lot of people. He touched a lot of people. And for the most part, it wasn't always creepy, but he... But what he loved was his friends. Without question, without reservation, he loved Kim. He loved Kim's kids. He loved Jan and Bill. He loved everybody. He connected with everybody here. We know that. I loved saying Steve thought he was his best friend. It's beautiful. I plead and I implore and urge everybody here, please take off your blinders, open your eyes a little bit more, open your hearts and your ears a little bit closer. Get rid of the stubbornness, the resentment, and live and love like Wes did. If you're not a hugger, try it out, because it feels damn good. And I love you, bro.
Now the conference over there is because I know we're running late. We're going to have a song, and then we're going to open up this mic, but just for about 15 minutes, just so that everyone, as you know, there's going to be a reception afterwards. And so, if you'd like to share after this song, we have time for just 15. Kim's whittling it down already. Well, that's very nice. So Jan is saying if anybody really needs to go, listen, we won't be offended. We have run overtime. And so if you need to go early, please feel free. And we're going to have a song right now, and then after that, we'll open up for about 10 minutes.
Hey, I'm Amy, and Wes is my cousin. I was 10 when Wes was born, and when Wes was little, he would call me Mamie instead of Amy. And I hated it because I was 11 or 12, right? Didn't like it. As an adult, when he would call me Mamie, there was not a better feeling when he called me Mamie. He was mischievous. Jan tells the story. There's been a lot of references to vegetables. When he was a kid, Jan took him to the doctor, and the doctor asked Wes, The doctor asked Wes, "Do you like your vegetables, son?" He said, "I love vegetables, but my mom won't let me eat them."
Don't be shy. I was too strict with the rule. But I do want you to come up to the mic because otherwise people in the overflow rooms won't be able to hear you. And if not, then I know that Kim and Austin and Brook and Jan and all of the family and friends, we would all, who are part of putting this together tonight, would all like to thank you so much for coming and for celebrating Wes's life together. In fact, there will be a continuing celebration of life tonight, and you are all invited to that at the tavern at the tavern at Town Lake, at Town Lake Hills East. It's in the address and everything is in your bulletin. It will be a cash bar and hors d'oeuvres, and 3 uniformed men are walking toward me at this moment. So.
This is our family. Wes was our brother. It wasn't 1 year or 5 years or 10 years. You loved him. Didn't matter. We were roommates. My boy next to me was roommates with him the other 2 times I wasn't there. We had a lot of fun. Played a little ball, drank a lot of whiskey. Played a lot of ball and drank a lot of whiskey. He was good at both. We're going to miss him.
Yeah, I met Wes, I guess, 7 years ago at our both of us attended camp for the first time together. Hearing some of the stories earlier from lifelong friends, I mean, they ring true even for us that have only known him for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. The last time I saw Wes was after this last fantasy camp. We had been roommates. We flew home together. I wasn't feeling well, and he walked me to the parking shuttle ride to help me carry my gear. We hugged, and in unison, just like we heard earlier, we both said, "I love you, brother." And that's how I'll remember him. And he was. I thought I was his best friend, so I guess I was wrong. But it's been a great ride, and we all love him so much. And you can see by the number of people that have traveled from all over to be here, how great of a friend and how close we all were to him. So, love you, brother.
But like everyone said, I was his best friend. But an interesting thing with Wes is I went to high school at Sequoia, played baseball against him in high school. And then 2015, got lucky enough to go to fantasy camp. They invite you on this Facebook page for the fantasy campers. First name I see, Wes Wilson. I'm like, there's no way that's Etowah Wes Wilson. I've been living in Macon since 2004. But it was. And of course, he introduced me to all these brothers. Walked in the door down in fantasy camp, made me feel at home, like he always was able to do. He's going to be greatly missed. It's going to take all of us to take his place, unfortunately, because he did so many things for all of us. Then he invited me to play Saturday League, and you don't tell Wes no ever. So I said yes, and met another group of guys that I consider my brothers, because that's what Wes did. And I thank him for all of that. He got me playing ball again. It's been a wonderful ride. Love you, bro.
So I think I'm probably the one person in this group that actually is not a fantasy camper. But I'm with the Braves, and I've been lucky enough to do 4 fantasy camps with Wes and many of the guys right up here. I helped put on the event, and we're really excited for our upcoming alumni game. We get together every spring or summer and bring the fantasy campers back, enjoy a baseball game at SunTrust Park. And Wes Wilson's done 8 fantasy camps. He's been with us 8 seasons. This was such a love for him. It was the first guy I met, first guy I knew the name of. There's still guys I've been with each year, and I'm struggle with some names, but I knew who Wes Wilson was. And I don't know if everyone here knows this, but we actually will be inducting him as a Fantasy Camp Hall of Famer on April 27th.